I will call the Joint Fiscal Committee meeting to order on January 19th. And the first order of item is acceptance of the minutes of December 15th.
So moved.
Senator Gray moves acceptance, seconded by Senator D'Alessandro. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, you're all ready for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes are adopted. Moving on to
Chairman, could I abstain, please? Because I
Representative,
was
Senator.
not here, so I'd like to abstain.
Can't hear me?
Yes, I was not at the meeting, so I'd like to
Oh,
abstain
all
from
right,
that
you're
vote.
abstaining.
Thank you.
Mr.
You will
Chair,
be abstained.
Mr. Chair,
And
Same.
Senator Birdsell as well.
I'm slow as well.
And, okay. Representative Edwards abstains. Okay, we have a consent calendar that goes from tabs 3 through 9.
Excuse me, Mr.
And-
Chair. Just tab 2 is a tabled item if anyone wants to remove
Table
that.
2 is a,
tab
tab
2.
2 is a tabled item. Any requests on that? Seeing-
I'll request to take it off the table.
All right. Senator Birdsell wishes to remove it from the table. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of removing it from the table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's removed from the table, and item FIS 23-344 is before us, Business and Economic Affairs. Do we have someone from the agency? Director Cogswell.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Taylor Caswell, BEA.
Chase Hageman, Director of Economic Development, BEA.
Jesus.
Question, Representative Birdsell. Senator Birdsell.
Mr. Chair, I don't have a question, but I do want to make a comment. I spoke with, I think it was tabled because of basically my requests, based on the fact that we had a New Hampshire trade mission to Poland this fall, which I was grateful to attend, trying to get, and I understand that some of that is on me, but, trying to get a stipend back after spending $6,000 of my own money, and this legislators only make $100 a year. We discussed it on the phone yesterday, and I think we're going to work on trying to get maybe a line item in the budget next time in the future for, in case any of these trade missions come up, that the legislators or elected officials, I know if the governor goes, he's got his own budget, but we don't. So if there's another chance that there's a trade mission, I think there's a line item that any elected officials can use, at least just to pay for their airfare and their hotel.
So you haven't been reimbursed?
No. So, anyway, we are going to work on something for the future.
Did you put in a request through the Senate budget? There is money in there for travel.
I'm working on it,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
so, thank you. All right, so I have 6 items that have been removed from,
Don't we have to actually vote on that?
all right,
I will move the item.
okay.
Second.
All right, motion to accept item 23-344. Senator Birdsell, Senator Gray. Further discussions? Representative Leishman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there is an $8,600 appropriation or line for travel in this particular item. So none of that can be used to reimburse you. Is that what we're told?
Oh, that's a question. My understanding is no, this is federal money. So the trade mission was New Hampshire based.
Thanks.
So
That's correct.
Director can answer that question.
You're welcome.
So can any of that money be used to reimburse her travel?
No, sir, we've looked at that, and it's these are federal dollars, so there are unfortunately limitations that are placed on how we use those funds, and they're directed exclusively at small businesses and their costs, a portion of their costs when they travel abroad. But as
Thank
the
you.
Senator mentioned, that we did discuss some options that we could potentially look at going forward that I think would maybe remedy that situation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to adopt the item. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's adopted. All right. To the consent calendar, the items that I've had requested to be removed are the following. Under tab 5, 24027. That was from the Senate, and also I have a House member with a question. Item 24032, a House member requested that removal. Under tab 6, 24033, that was a House member. And under tab 7, 24025. Is that 6?
No, yeah, no, that was 7, tab 7.
That was tab 7. 1, 2, 3.
4. That was the fourth one.
Okay.
So you got 2 more under tab 8.
Tab 8, 24003 and 24005 under tab 8. Are there any further items wish to be removed from the consent calendar? Senator Gray.
I think that one of the senators did ask for something. She's rescinded that?
I
request?
did. I'm sorry. I try not to copy everybody, but I told Mr. Kane I didn't want to remove it from consent anymore.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
had it 24027, is that correct?
Yes. You're correct.
You
We
want
got some
a repetition of the
explanation
other ones?
from the department, so I no longer want to remove 2006, 006.
What you said was good. The list you had was
Okay.
perfect.
The rest are okay. All right,
To
so,
make it easier, the senator had a question. The question resolved the issue, and now she does not want to pull it.
Perfect.
which item was that?
It was under tab 5, 24006.
Okay. I did not mention that for removal.
Correct.
So it is still on the consent calendar.
Yes.
All right. How does the committee wish to
Move the
proceed?
consent calendar.
Senator Gray moves acceptance of the consent calendar with those aforementioned exceptions. Senator D'Alessandro seconds. Further discussion? Seeing none, are you ready for the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We'll first move, so the consent calendar is accepted with those exceptions mentioned. The first one we will come to will be under tab 5, 24027.
No, this is, I think it's lead. I hope it's lead.
What's the agency?
Yeah, it's lead testing.
And that would be the Health and Human Services, and there they are. Senator Rosenwald, did you have a question?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually had a couple of questions. One is for DES, who sent some further explanation this morning saying that the money that was appropriated in 2019 for the drinking water and groundwater test, which I think was between $1.5 and $2 million, they were unable to use, so they ended that grant. my question is, wasn't that non-lapsing? What is that money doing now?
Sure, Senator. So that's a question that DES, Sue Carlson will be able to answer. It has to do with the fiscal year 2019 appropriation from the Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund for Schools. Was that DOE?
No, that's not that one.
Sure, yeah.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Susan Carlson from Environmental Services. The money that we are giving Health and Human Services is actually coming from a federal grant primarily, and then $400,000 from the Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund. The money we had given the Department of Education that you were referring to, that grant has been closed and was returned to the trust. And so this is different money.
Could I follow up?
Yeah.
Follow up?
What was the mechanism for returning the money that we appropriated to the trust?
When I say return the money, I mean the Department of Education, we ended the grant with them. It's not an actual cash transfer. We ended that grant with them because they were not spending the money, and we pivoted for the lead in schools and daycares because of changes in law to work with Department of of Health and Human Services to deal with lead in child care centers, and DES itself is handling grants directly to the schools for lead remediation.
Could I follow up? Thank you. Could you provide us with the statutory language that allowed you to do that? And my second question is for HHS, and that is, how many childcare facilities are going to receive these grants to have their water, drinking water sources upgraded to be lead-free?
Sure. Good morning to the committee. My name is Ian Watt. I'm the interim director for Division of Public Health Services. So there's 717 licensed childcares in the state of New Hampshire. We anticipate up to 20% may need some kind of lead remediation activities, and those would largely be fixture. We anticipate most of them will be fixture replacements. We're hoping there aren't as many kind of broad scale water system impacts. Obviously, those are more costly and would impact the funds available. But everyone would be eligible for these funds, and we anticipate it may be between 100 and 150 facilities that may need them.
I'll move the item.
Senator Rosenwald moves the item. Senator Birdsell seconds it. I recognize Representative Edwards. Did you have a question on this item?
No, sir.
Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none. Are you ready for the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is adopted. Moving on to item 24032. And this one, I had Representative Erf had a question on this item.
Good morning. Again, Susan Carlson, Environmental Services.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. So I asked about what communities would be served, and the answer came back, well, you can't really tell me until you get the money and go through the process. So I would ask if, once you've gone through that whole process and you get to the point of the communities being served, could you provide back to Fiscal that information?
Certainly.
That'd be great. Thank you. And should I just continue? No, I'll stop.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. The other one's the same thing, but we should probably vote first.
Okay, that's what all you needed?
That's all I needed.
Any further questions from committee? I'll entertain a motion. Senator Bradley moved the item. Senator Gray seconds for FIS 24032. Are you ready for the question? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The item is adopted. Moving on to tab 6, 24033. Department of Environmental Services again. Again, Representative Erf has a question.
Same question, same request, if you would. Thank you.
We'd like to get the data. Okay.
Move the item.
Motion by Representative Erf to adopt the item, second by Senator D'Alessandro. Are any further questions on 24033? Seeing none, you're ready for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is adopted. Okay, the next item is 24025. On tab 7. Department of Health and Human Services. Representative Erf and Representative Leishman have questions on this item.
You want to introduce yourselves first, or should I start first?
Good morning. I'm Ian Watt. I'm the interim director for Public Health Services.
Good morning, Nathan White, Chief Financial Officer, Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you for taking my question. So I posed this, and I didn't get an answer, but it's similar to the last folks that were up. If you could provide details of the contracts for program services when it's appropriate, basically, the $200,000 of who those contractors are.
You want specifically who the contractors are?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. I don't have that information in front of me. Happy to provide a
That's-
follow-up.
Fine, thank you.
Representative Leishman, do you have a question on this item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thanks. I was just curious, I think it's on page 5. I know these are all federal funds, but it talks about fund components like under the notice of awards, AMD2 and NWSS2, what those are, and
Yep.
SHARP 2.
AMD is Advanced Molecular Diagnostics. It's specifically related to genetic sequencing, which we use for disease identification in the event of a foodborne outbreak or various strains of infectious diseases. It allows the public health laboratories within the Division of Public Health Services to do genetic sequencing and work with partners to identify specific strains of disease that may be spreading in New Hampshire. And then the data modernization is specifically tied to electronic case reporting. So reportable diseases in the state that need to be reported. We're working with vendors on their electronic case reporting as well as lab case reporting.
And NWSS2.
NWSS2. I will have to follow up with you. I do not have that acronym in front of
And
me
then
right now.
SHARP 2. I just never seen those before, and I just.
We have our associate commissioner here to save it.
Good morning, Patricia Tilley,
Morning.
Associate Commissioner. NWS is our National Wastewater Monitoring.
Oh, okay, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee? I'll entertain a motion. Senator D'Alessandro moves the item, seconded by Representative Leishman for item 24025. Further questions? Seeing none, you ready for the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. 24025 is adopted. Moving on to 24027. No, what do we got? We've already did that. All right, so now we're 24 on tab 8. 24003. Department of Business and Economic Affairs.
Good morning again, Taylor Caswell,
Director.
Commissioner.
And I had down, Representative Leishman had a question on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I see that you have a remaining budget of about $7.9 million, and this particular item expires, if you will, or ends in November of next year. Are you going to be able to spend all that money? Because you haven't made many requests on it so far.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. The issue has been the design of the programs that we are going to be bringing forward. We have to have those approved by the Economic Development Administration. So that's a back and forth. So as we get those approvals, we bring them here. But we have programs that are going to be showing up over the next couple of months that will get us on track to have those funds spent well in advance of November of 2025.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further questions?
I'd move the item.
Representative Leishman moves 24003, seconded by Senator Gray. Any further questions? Seeing none, you ready for the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. 24003 is adopted. We're moving on to 24005. And Department of Health and Human Services, and I have down that Representative Edwards has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to be back. It's been 7 months, so I hope I remember how to do this. But I specifically would like to get an idea of the $39 million that's in 24005. Under Class 101, it describes that the funds will be used for Medicaid care management, capitation payments, fee-for-service provider payments, DCYF, behavioral services for clients enrolled in New Hampshire's Medicaid program. So keeping in mind that I'm not asking for a full education on this, I just would like to understand better, at maybe a layman's language, what this money is going to be spent on. Is this money going to be spent because we've had increased volumes? Is it going to be added to reimbursement rates? Is it something that we actually have already owed and this is going to give us an opportunity to pay it? Just where does this money go?
Sure. Nathan White, Chief Financial Officer, Health and Human Services. So I'm just going to back up a little bit to put some of this into context. So this item is similar to an item that was approved by this committee last February. What we are approving here, this is additional MET revenue. When the department budgeted last year, or in the summer of 2020, that was obviously a challenging time for many. And when we budgeted our revenue within our Medicaid program account, and so this is the 7948, this is the Medicaid care management account. This is the account from which we, and class line in this specific case, from which we pay our per member per month rates, we pay our fee for service rates. So to directly answer your question, Representative Edwards, this would be these funds would be supporting the existing Medicaid program and the existing payments that we have. The reason why you're seeing $39 million here, this was $11 million in the prior year, is because when we made our DISH payments, and that's part of the larger disproportionate share hospital program, in the prior year, we earned an additional 5% federal funds that we in a normal world we would not have otherwise. So we were able to earn additional federal revenue. Additionally, going back to the summer of 2020, when we originally prepared the state fiscal year 23 budget, we budgeted conservatively because the MET revenues, it's a 5.4% tax on net patient service revenue. We assumed at that point in time that hospitals' net patient service revenue was probably going to be lower. We had a slightly different experience, obviously, than what we anticipated in that year. But for example, in 2021, the MET revenue came in at $248 million, and by state fiscal year 2023, MET revenue was at $301 million. So statewide, we saw a large increase in that. And so today, we're asking you to allow us to accept these funds into the standard Medicaid budget. And this budget is carried forward from year to year. It doesn't lapse at the end of the biennium. And this would allow us to make provider payments. And if there are changes, unpredicted changes in enrollment numbers or utilization, these funds would be used to pay for that. But they would not, to answer your question directly, they would not be used to pay for rate increases. That was a separate tranche of funds that this committee already discussed back in October.
Follow-up?
Follow-up question.
Thank you, Mr. White, for being gentle with me on that. So What I'd still like to come back to is a commitment that was made when we were all negotiating in good faith with each other on monies to be allocated to the Medicaid reimbursement rate increases. And I think in an act of nobility, the hospital system stepped forward and said that they would defer their share of a Medicaid reimbursement rate so we could distribute it further across the community to help others. And I'm just curious if it happens that this MET money is going to be an unanticipated benefit to the hospital system that would rightly deserve it. But I'm just curious where we are in terms of keeping track of our commitments and promises. Does that make sense? Is this
might.
MET money going to the hospitals?
No. So the dish payment program that's articulated within the 2018 settlement agreement and RSA, those payments are based on the methodology specified therein. These funds would not be used to increase those payments. These funds would be used to pay for and support the Medicaid program.
All right, thank you. I'm satisfied. I think Senator Rosenwald may have a question.
Senator Rosenwald for a
Thank
question.
you. Following up on Representative Edwards, though, don't the hospitals account for the majority of Medicaid claims or a huge chunk of it? So won't some of those increased provider payments accrue to the hospitals? Even though we didn't give them a rate increase.
The payments are based on utilization, so it would be based on where the need is. Like this is essentially going into our larger Medicaid program account, 7948. It's one of the largest accounting units in the state, and it's used to support that program. So I don't see any direct relationship or incentive or causality associated with this accept and expend and any outcomes associated with what you were indicating, Senator Rosenwald.
Further question?
Thank you. So the fact that we have this pretty significant excess Met revenue, has the department tried to figure out to what extent it's caused by increased utilization and to what extent it's caused by increased prices?
I would have to check with the Medicaid team to know if they've conducted that kind of level of analysis. At this point, though, I'm not aware of one.
But Henry Lippman just stood up.
Good observation.
Good morning. For the record, Henry Lippman, the state's Medicaid director. So the Met tax money that funds the dish, that the arrangement that is codified in 2018, House Bill 1817, we fulfilled that completely, our obligation on that. In terms of this additional Met tax, it was expected to cover things in terms of the enrollment, other growth in services. But in terms of directly on your question, we saw typically the Met revenue has been growing in more typical years between 3 and 7%. Is what we see. Net patient service revenue growing in the hospitals, that drives the tax collection to go up. But keep in mind, the reason some of this is continually appropriated, just one example is, as we look at next year, we have identified at least 66 new gene therapies and drugs that are potentially coming at the Medicaid program. Some of them, we think in the end, probably about 31 will come in the next year. When I say these 31, they have a minimum cost of $200,000, and some, like for example, the one on sickle cell anemia, the prices on those are 2.1 and 3 million. There is a rebate that we get on it, but in terms of the 39 million's a big dollar amount, but some of the uncertainties in terms of where spending is going to go as a result of these types of things, that's, I think, why the past legislature has given some deference to this additional money, because we have enrollment variation, which has been, it's settling down more to what we expected right now. But all these other things coming at us, that's why I think that money is intended to support that, and, other utilization changes as Nathan was describing. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Director. Any further questions from the committee members? Senator Bradley moves the item. Second by Senator Rosenwald. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, you ready for the question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The item is adopted. Moving on to tab 10, regular calendar. Fish and Game floating dock. I see the director is here. Any questions on 24015 about the floating dock? Representative Leishman moves the item 2415. Is there a second? Second by Senator D'Alessandro. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. 2415 is adopted. We had some questions on some of the information items. We've all gotten a new handout on the Youth Development Center Claims Administration. Does anybody have any questions on that? The item we've gotten recently, 24034.
I've won.
All right. Representative Erf has a question. Someone here from, I see the Attorney General is here. Okay. And two of the other people in that program. Good morning.
Button here. Hi. Can you hear me? Does that work? Okay.
Get a little closer.
Okay. I'm Jen Foley. I'm General Counsel for the YDC Settlement Fund. I'm working with Administrator Broderick, and I can walk through the report, answer questions about the report, whatever you'd like.
If you want to have a walkthrough, go first. I have a
Rep-
question, but
Who wants to go first?
I can go first, but it wasn't about a breakdown.
Okay, Representative Erf.
I just have a request. If you could provide us at some future point of a breakdown of the claim sizes, are they all coming in at 1.5 million, or some of them, a lot of between 0 and 500,000, that kind of thing. Just get an idea of the span of claims that are awarded claims, not the requests, but what you actually finally resolve. Thank you.
So if I understand, so for settled amount, such as by the Attorney General's office or through resolution proceeding, whether it's 0 to 100,000 awarded, 100 to some type of range like that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Further questions on the item from committee members? Seeing none. We have a motion? I don't think-
You don't need a motion.
We don't need a motion, do
Oh,
we?
it's only an information. We don't need a
Information,
motion.
yep.
Exception place of final
Thank you. All right. You don't have any more questions?
No, I'm done.
All right. Someone had a question on 2416 and Health and Human Services.
26, for sure.
Well, we'll come to that. 2416. Under tab 12. Representative Edwards is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a report that I've seen in various iterations over the last couple of years. And one of the takeaways of this report tends to be that the legislature has once again fully appropriated all the money that would be necessary to have a zero wait list. And it's been a long time since I've had an opportunity to ask the question is, how are we doing on the ground? I know that we've appropriated all the money. I'm glad we've done that, and we've done that for 2 or 3 years now. But the question that I had asked periodically was, are all of the kids who are eligible for services actually receiving them? We used to have a gap between the kids that we had money for and the kids that had providers, because not everybody had the providers they needed. So we were long time ago looking for a metric to give us some idea of how healthy we are at matching providers to kids.
Thank you for the question, Representative Edwards. For the record, Chris Santinello, Associate Commissioner. This report here is geared towards the Child Care Development Fund funding and children needing access to a subsidy. We don't have collect a wait list for children who do not receive these funding, who are looking for placement in a child care setting.
So let me restate that, because I think I understand you. But what I think I just heard you say is we don't have any kids that are eligible that don't also have a matching to a provider at this point.
We don't have data. We don't have any children who are eligible for the child care scholarship funding who are waiting for that funding.
So that's all good news, right? There's nothing hidden in there I should be picking on? That sounds all good.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I mean, but
okay.
this is funding,
Yeah.
and so I think
Yeah, well, and the funds, if they don't get used, they're non-lapsing, are they not?
the federal funds carry over year to year.
Okay. And then I think I had another question. We changed the eligibility for this program in HB2, I believe. And we were curious what the status is on the eligibility update.
So that just went into effect January 1st.
January 1, it went into
Yes,
effect?
so I don't really have data on that.
No,
We-
that, you just did. That was the
Oh,
answer.
okay, thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, okay. That's all the
Follow-up?
questions I have on this.
That's all? Okay.
All right? Do you have one?
Anybody else have any questions on this item? Thank you. I think we also have 24026.
Yes, sir.
We had a question from, I think, Senator Rosenwald. Table 6. I'm not hearing you with your mic off.
I also had questions on the litigation fund, but while the department is here, I had a question about the dashboard,
Oh.
the long-term care program. The CFI numbers, which were projected to rise and be just under 6,000, have continued to fall and are currently this fiscal year and last fiscal year below where they were pre-pandemic. And the nursing home bed census is also down versus goal. So my question is, where's the bottleneck in the department, and what is the department doing to get more people provided with the services they're eligible for and are approved for?
Thank you for the question. I'm Melissa Hardy. I'm the Division Director for Long-Term Supports and Services. So I think a couple of things that we're doing to increase the supports in the community through the CFI program. One is the legislation in HB2 for the system of care for healthy aging, looking at eligibility, requirements and how we get that streamlined for folks to be eligible for Medicaid and services in the community. So we're actively working on those provisions that were appropriated in HB2. The other program we're working on is Money Follows the Person. We are submitting our operational protocol to CMS at the end of this month. And we should also see a correlation in community-based services for people accessing services through Money Follows the Person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the department meeting its statutory deadline for the determinations?
Yes, yes. For Medicaid determinations?
For long-term care?
Yes.
Waiver?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions on that item?
Yes, sir.
Representative Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are some tables here that paint a potentially interesting short story. Tables 1, 2, 3, where it looks like the amount of workload going through Medicaid has been dropping quite a lot. And I know some of this is from the department's efforts to modify eligibility. But is there more going on to behind these charts that would present a couple of sentences of a short story?
Well, on page 1, table 1, that's referring to the total count. On page 2, if you're looking at Medicaid caseloads, I mean, what you're seeing there is the unwind. That's the significant drop that we're seeing there. Utilization in TANF, I mean, there's been a downward trend there for quite some time. So I'm not necessarily drawing any other conclusions there. What were you thinking, Representative Edwards?
Well, I'm just seeing a kind of an unexpected, to me, drop in Medicaid utilization, and some of it seems to be associated with the unwind. But I'm just curious if there's something deeper beneath the decline that would indicate a healthier population, or a population that's harder for us to access, or it just alerts me that something seems to be odd.
No, I mean, the unwind trends, that took period over a period of 9, 10, 12 months, or I guess not quite 12, but that's been going on for a period of time. That's why we see a slow, gradual decline there. But basically what we're seeing, like in standard Medicaid, is a return to, pre-pandemic levels. So I mean, Henry Littman's here. He can certainly speak to it more in depth, but I'm not aware of anything unusual there.
Just shake your head if you think that there's something more unusual going on there. Otherwise, I'll leave it. We can talk later. I want to talk to you about ophthalmology anyways. All right, and then I would like to jump forward to table 6. This is the Sununu services, and in the last 6 months or so, we've been hitting an average daily census of 18 pretty commonly, and this makes me nervous because I thought we were going to be able to build the new Sununu Center with 18, realizing that 18 was a maximum number that we needed in a flexible situation. But logically, if we're at 18 regularly, then we've given up our flexibility, and we may be in sort of a red situation already. I'm curious what you think. Did I screw up by not telling you to build 20 instead of 18?
Good morning, Marissa Henn, Deputy Commissioner, for the record.
It's really Mr. Ribson, by the way.
Mr.
Yeah, if we screwed up, it's him.
We can blame it on our DCYF predecessor. So you are right that the census at SYSC has been high for the past year. Part of that seems to be due to some of the changes in what we're seeing around juvenile justice related to gang-related activity, and also the seriousness of crimes is resulting in more youth being committed, meaning they're spending longer sentences versus that short detention period. So there's been a bit of a shift just in the overall landscape of juvenile justice, not only in New Hampshire, but in other states. So we're doing a number of things in response to that, because it has been made exceedingly clear to us, not just last session, but for many sessions, that 18 is the limit for the new YDC build. So the things that we're doing are, first of all, we're working to actually continue to drive that number down by doing all the preventive upstream work of getting kids and families services that we know make a difference. I won't detail those for you, but you've heard me talk about them before. The second thing is we're working with the court system to say, what should we do in that situation? We're obviously still a couple years out from the new YDC being, accepting youth, but we need to be prepared. So those are essentially what we're doing. We're working to lessen the actual demand. And then we're actually working, in the event that the demand exceeds supply, working with the court system, who are the only ones who can order youth to the YDC in the first place, to say, what would we do in that situation? Because the future build is an 18 max without any exception.
Further questions?
Follow up.
Follow up?
So it seems like the trend in the growth is in the detained youth column, and that the committed youth column has been pretty stable for quite some time. And so is it the court system that may be able to work with you the most to influence the detained youth, or is that all prescribed by law?
So essentially, when I'm referring to the increase in committed, I'm comparing it to last year at this time, when you see the number was around 2 or 3 and now is around 6. So it's really that change from a year from when the legislation passed, where we had a census, I think, of around 12 on average, to that higher number. So the problem with committed and detained, and actually we're in the process, per a really thoughtful request from Representative Woolner, to update this to show the cumulative number of admissions, because looking only at detained or committed is a bit of a misleading snapshot. The detained youth are sometimes only there for a couple days, a few weeks. The committed youth are often there for years, sometimes the remainder of their minority. So I think the answer to your question is, we are seeing an increase. We're seeing a change in the composition and population. This isn't just New Hampshire. This is happening regionally and nationally. And yes, it requires working with the courts, because DHHS can't actually decide who goes to YDC. We rely on the courts and working with the courts to make those determinations based on very strict criteria.
I appreciate your answer. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Birdsell for a question.
Thank you for taking my question. Understanding that the YDC, the new YDC, is going to have an 18-bed max, is there a plan B in case that number goes up?
Thanks. So again, I think that the situation is one of, it's not entirely up to just DHHS. Even now, let's say there was a major incident, an array of criminal activity that resulted in 10 kids being sent to SYSC today. We could not accommodate that with our staffing, with our facility, with our ability to meet federal regulations for separating youth in a way that's safe. So it's never out of the question that the demand for services could exceed supply. And I think it would require just careful conversations with the courts to say, we have to come up with alternatives. We have to find ways to get some of these youth into residential treatment. We have to make sure all of them are actually appropriate and can't be served elsewhere, don't require psychiatric treatment. So it's not like the possibility isn't always there. I think we're taking it much more seriously, given the concern that you've raised, that we're awfully close to that cap right now. Yeah.
Any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. If there's no further questions on the informational items, we'll move on to the... I'm sorry, Senator Rosenwald.
Yes, I had a question on the litigation report from the Department of Justice.
Okay. I see the Attorney General is here. We'll move back to
Oh, it's number.
24034 under tab 11.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Good morning.
On page 3 of the 2023 report,
Yep.
I just wanted to ask you about two items. There are no line numbers, but they're the two expensive items. The first one is GK et al. Versus Christopher Sununu et al. Is that an ER boarding case?
No, no, Senator, that's not ER boarding. This is a class action that was brought against the state by four youth who are in foster care but have mental disabilities. So that is basically a challenge to how whether the state is doing what it needs to be doing under the law to provide services for kids who might be in foster care that have mental disabilities.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And my second question is down almost at the bottom, investigation, YDC, it's $1.9 million. Are those the criminal cases or is that the
Yes,
civil?
those are the criminal cases.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Leishman for a question.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for being here. You do a staggering amount of work, which is obvious by these two documents you've given us. So I had a couple of questions.
Yep.
One, I saw the Conval line was about $850,000. Is that, where does that stand now? Is that under stay? Is it being repealed?
Yeah, so well, right now we filed the motion for reconsideration, but we anticipate that going up on appeal. And we do not expect the costs on appeal to be anywhere close to what the costs were to prepare the case for trial and actually try the case.
Okay, thank you. And just one other question, Mr. Chairman.
Follow up.
I saw a couple of Liquor Commission items where you were involved. Are you being reimbursed by the Liquor Commission for any of that litigation, or?
I don't believe we get reimbursed. No, we
don't?
represent everyone, and we use the litigation fund for that.
Okay, it was something that former Representative Ober and I were always concerned about, that the litigation, at least from the Liquor Commission, wasn't being reimbursed to your office, but.
Yeah, so Kathy Carr was just saying that they do pay into SWICAP for civil, so they do, like every other agency, sort of pay in, and there are shared costs for an agency like ours that serves every agency in state government. So there is that reimbursement that is sort of the same as other agencies, but there's no direct reimbursement. We don't bill the Liquor Commission for litigation we do for the Liquor Commission.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I guess we're ready to move on to audits.
Blocking, okay.
Good. Commissioner, if you're crowded at that table, you can go to the mics at the end of the other table as
I
well.
think we're going to be okay.
All right.
Famous last words.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and
Morning.
members of the committee. For the record, I'm Christine Young, Director of Audits for the LBA. As you know, we contract with KPMG to conduct the statewide audit of the financial statements. Joining us from KPMG is the partner, Marie Zimmerman, and the preparers of the annual comprehensive financial report from the Department of Administrative Services. We have Commissioner Charlie Arlinghouse and State Comptroller Dana Call. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marie for the presentation of the report.
Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. I am honored to be back in front of you today. This is my 7th time presenting to you the annual financial statement of the state of New Hampshire. I want to just say that this is not a small lift. It is a testament to Charlie, Dana, and management for pulling it together, and for Christine and her LBA team who proactively support us throughout the audit. We did not identify any issues or concerns as it relates to the integrated audit throughout our coordination with LBA, and we did increase the use of their support throughout our audit, as well as technology support that we were able to bring, and their team worked with us as they incorporated our technology into their audit process. Included in your package today is a presentation that it includes our required communication as well as the results of our audit. I'm not going to go through page by page, but I'll just summarize briefly. We did perform our audit in accordance with governmental accounting standards, and we issued an unmodified opinion, which is the cleanest opinion you can receive. We issue an opinion on each of the major funds included within the basic financials. Those are the governmental funds, the business type activities, and the aggregate discretely presented component units, and each major fund included in the aggregate remaining information. This also, our opinion includes references to other auditors, and that largest being the pension trust funds. We did issue an opinion related to the required supplementary information. That's an in relation to opinion. And that required supplementary information is the MD&A and the OPEB and pension schedules. What that means is that we subject the information within those 3 schedules to our audit procedures to ensure that they were presented fairly in all material respects with the audited financials. We have on slide 5 of our presentation our required communication summarized there, and I just went through the key points that I wanted to present. Now jumping to slide 7, we have noted 3 uncorrected audited adjustments and no corrected audit adjustments. These 3 management was aware of, and they primarily relate to corrections of errors that were identified to ensure that the financial statements for the current year and going forward are accurate. We have received representations from management and concur that the effect of these uncorrected financial statements and related accounts and disclosures are immaterial to the users, both individually and in the aggregate. If you will note on slide 8, we did not identify any material weaknesses. We do opine on internal controls as relate to financial reporting, and material weakness would be the most severe level of a breakdown of internal control. So that is a testament to your internal control structure here at the state. We did identify 1 significant deficiency, which is a slight carryover from the previous years as it relates to the unemployment compensation trust fund. It relates to the reconciliation of their accruals on an annual basis. When I say accruals, I mean their accrual accounts. Throughout the year, they're on a cash basis, and at year end, they'll go through a process of preparing for accrual reporting, and it's the timeliness of reconciling those accounts that we reported on. Management is in concurrence with that and continues to make efforts to ensure they have the proper levels of staffing and support to be able to perform those reconciliations in a timely manner. We have issued a report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance and other matters on the audit of the financial statements prepared in accordance with governmental auditing standards. Within that report, we do identify that there were no material weaknesses in internal controls, and we identify that 1 significant deficiency. I am the lead partner on the federal single audit, and I'll be presenting to you in April. This letter will be included within the federal single audit report that gets filed with the federal government. The report And lastly, the one item, additional item I want to highlight is that there were no disagreements with management, and there was no significant difficulties during the audit. I felt that we had a very strong working relationship and open, candid conversations, and I do appreciate that of management to feel confident in providing you with this opinion over the basic financial statements. Does
Thank you
anyone have
very
any
much.
questions?
Questions from the committee members? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director, Commissioner?
Just, I won't belabor things, but we've had a good relationship. Marie was actually the lead partner in my first audit as commissioner, and then she went away, and then she came back. So that's a that's a good sign, I think. I'm not sure. We worked very closely and cooperatively with both KPMG and LBA, but I want to make sure to thank. We have a very strong accounting staff in the state and in accounting services, and you all know the comptroller very well, but I want to make sure I mention Scott Egan, who's our director of financial reporting, who's a newer employee who did yeoman's work on this. So many times when I stopped by the third floor, would wander down because there was only one light on late at night, and hopefully he's accruing lots of comp time, which is a grand thing. But and Kat Bogan and Deputy Comptroller Karen Burke as well. So we have very good staff who did a very good job on this, and it's why the results are as good as you see. And I'm happy to note that during Dana's entire tenure, the ACFR has been on time, which is unusual.
We all appreciate that. Thank you very much, Comptroller. Any questions on the comprehensive annual financial report for this team? We're delighted to have it on time and have it, the results come out as well as they did. Nothing further on the CAFR? You have our compliments.
Okay. Now we'd like to present the Turnpike Systems Annual Financial Report. KPMG conducted this audit. The partner, Bob Mahoney, will present the report. And joining us also. Oh, sure. Okay.
All right, Turnpike audit.
Turnpike audit, yes. Bob Mahoney, the partner from KPMG, will present the report. And also joining us is Danielle Chandonnet, Director of Finance from the Department of Transportation. And with that, I'll turn it over to Bob for the presentation of the report.
Great, thank you very much. You should, in your materials, have 3 deliverables related to the Turnpike system. The first deliverable is the financial statements. The second is the report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance. And the third is the debt compliance letter. And before I go through each of those quickly, I just wanted to congratulate Danielle and her team for all their efforts during the audit. There's a lot of time spent compiling the financial statements timely and accurately. So just wanted to congratulate Danielle and her team. With respect to the financial statement opinion, that opinion indicates that management is responsible for the fair presentation and accuracy of the financial statements, and KPMG is responsible for expressing an opinion on the financial statements. We conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards. And that report also references the report on internal control of financial reporting, which I indicated earlier was the second report in your materials. That Yellow Book report indicates that there were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses identified during the course of the audit. So again, congratulations to Danielle and her team. And then the last report in your materials, the debt compliance report, indicates that we reviewed the provisions and covenants within the bond resolutions and determined that the turnpike system was in compliance with those provisions. So all good news to report with respect to the reports that you have in front of you. In addition, I will cover the required communications to the committee. So there were no significant or unusual transactions that we identified during the course of the audit. There was one uncorrected misstatement, which relates to a non-GAAP policy, which is consistent with uncorrected misstatement that we have identified in the past related to the allocation of the net other post-employment benefit liability. So the state does not allocate the trusted OPEB plan liability to the enterprise funds, and the turnpike being one of those. So again, it's about $1 million net pension liability that was not allocated. So that was one uncorrected misstatement that we identified. There were no corrected misstatements that we identified during the course of the audit. Again, there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies identified. We did discuss the significant accounting policies, which are disclosed in the notes of the financial statements, with management during the course of the audit, and determined that they were reasonable. In addition, we evaluated the significant accounting estimates during the course of the audit, which included the valuation of investments, the valuation of the toll receivables allowance, as well as accruals of expenses, and also determined those to be reasonable. There were no actual or suspected illegal acts that we identified during the course of the audit. There were no subsequent events that we identified. No non-compliance with laws or regulations. No significant difficulties that we encountered during the audit. Management did not consult with other accountants that we are aware of. There were no difficult or contentious matters that we dealt with during the course of the audit. No disagreements with management during the course of the audit. And we are independent of the turnpike as well. So with that, that's all I have for prepared remarks. And if you have any questions, happy to answer those. And if Danielle has any comments, that's fine as well.
Questions so far from committee members? Representative Leishman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed the accounts payable from last year to this year seem to be significantly higher by like $10 million. Are we paying our bills later, or?
Hi, Danielle Chandonnet. I'm the Director of Finance for the DOT. We capture as much as we can. We have had some issues with staffing in AP, so they have drawn out a little bit, but they're all paid up, and we work on that on a regular basis. It's good.
Okay, so more just a staffing issue and getting the checks out type of thing.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much. Lottery. Morning.
Okay. All here. The next presentation will be for the audit of the Lottery Commission financial statements, which was performed by our office. With me is Kimberly Bisson. She was a senior manager on the audit who conducted the audit. And joining us from the Lottery Commission is Charlie McIntyre, Executive Director, and Jim Duras, Chief Financial Officer, to respond to any questions that you may have. And with that, I will turn it over to Kimberly for the presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Kimberly Bisson. We are here today to report the results of our audit of the financial statements contained in the New Hampshire Lottery's Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023. The financial statements begin on page 46 of the Lottery ACFR. Lottery's management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of those financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Our auditor's report and opinion, dated December 20th, 2023, can be found on pages 27 through 30 in the financial section of the report. As noted in the opinion paragraph on page 27, we issued an unmodified or clean opinion on the Lottery Commission's basic financial statements, which also include the notes and other supplementary information. While our opinion speaks directly to the basic financial statements and notes, no matters came to our attention that caused us to believe that other information in the financial section of the report was inconsistent with the basic financial statements. Auditing standards require that we make a number of disclosures to you. These disclosures are included in the other required communications handout that was provided with your report. In the interest of time, I will not go through each of them individually. However, we can say that we were satisfied with the cooperation of the lottery and the progress of the audit, and there is nothing that we need to bring to the committee's attention related to any concerns with those required disclosures. In accordance with government auditing standards, we will be issuing a report on our consideration of the lottery's internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters as a byproduct of our audit. That report will be included in the management letter, which will be presented to this committee at a future meeting. This concludes my presentation. I'd like to thank Lottery Commission management and their staff for their assistance during the audit. And with your permission, I'll turn the presentation over to Director McIntyre.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Charlie McIntyre, Director of the Lottery. First, I want to thank the folks at LBA for this. They work collaboratively well with our staff, but also I want to thank our Chief Financial Officer, Jim Durst, who does this. Obviously, remarkably competent report, but also really good looking.
As always.
So, just, you know, we're both real good at math and we're real good at how things look. So, I want to thank the committee and answer any questions you folks have.
Congratulations on a very good year. To what do you attribute your 12.4% increase?
Other than our remarkable ability, essentially everything working well. And you take advantage of natural occurrences, right? So Powerball had a good year because interest rates went up.
Yeah.
And so jackpot sizes went up because jackpots are a factor of cash on hand times the bond factor, which is essentially interest rates. That being said, New Hampshire was #1 in the country at Powerball sales. So yes, it was a natural occurrence, a tailwind, but also we took remarkable advantage of the tailwind. So, you know, the more I prepare, the better luck we have. So anyway, and sports betting also, we're #2 in the country of sports betting profitability for the state. So yes, we have natural occurrences. Yes, I'd like to thank the Dallas Cowboys for losing because that alone, and I reminded Commissioner Kapatis on the way out, I thanked him personally and said we owe Jerry Jones a fruit basket. So, but anyway, so a number of good factors. Really, this past year was a positive aspects of on all our verticals.
Congratulations. Further questions from the committee? Representative Leishman.
I'd just like to thank Charlie and his team because it seems like ever since we stole you from Massachusetts, our revenues continue to climb. And just the note that $43 million just this year alone went into the education fund. So I just want to thank you, and I know I speak for the whole committee, that you're doing a great job.
Listen, I have a wonderful team I work with, some of the most talented folks. I would note that since I started, we've gone from 62 million to 187 million, and it hasn't been reflected in my salary. Just to point out the next budget session, that's all.
Well, Charlie, think of it this way. Our salaries haven't increased in 100 years.
We should put you on bonuses.
Right.
Just as some of your staff. Any further questions? We're all delighted. Appreciate your work. Thank you very much.
Okay. And last, but certainly not least on the agenda for today is the Liquor Commission financial statement presentation. This audit was also performed by our office. And with me to present the audit report today is Jim LaRiviere. He was the senior manager from our office who conducted the audit. And joining us from the Liquor Commission is Chairman Malika, Chief Financial Officer Tina Demers, and Chief Operating Officer James Vera. And now I will turn it over to Jim for the presentation.
Good morning, Chairman Weiler and members of the committee. Again, for the record, my name is Jim LaRiviere. We are here today to report the results of our audit of the financial statements of the Liquor Commission's financial statements in their annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023. Our auditor's report and opinion dated December 18th can be found on pages 15 through 18 in the financial section of the report. As noted in the opinion paragraph on page 15, the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. An important item to note is no material adjustments to the accounting records were proposed as a result of our audit. While our opinion speaks to the basic financial statements and notes, no matters came to our attention that caused us to believe that other information in the financial section of the report was inconsistent with the basic financial statements. Auditing standards require that we make a number of disclosures to you, which are included in the other required communications handout included with your report. In the interest of time, I will not go through each of the disclosure requirements individually. However, we can say that we were satisfied with the cooperation of the Liquor Commission and the progress of the audit, and there is nothing that we need to bring to the attention of the committee related to any concerns with those required disclosures. In accordance with governmental auditing standards, we will include the report on our consideration of internal controls over financial reporting, compliance, and other matters as a byproduct of this audit in our management letter that will be presented to the committee at a future meeting. I would like to thank the Liquor Commission's management and staff for their cooperation and assistance throughout the audit. This concludes my part of the presentation. And with your permission, Chairman Weiler, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Chairman Malika for any comments that he may have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Morning.
Morning, members of the committee. Joseph Malika, Chairman of the New Hampshire Liquor Commission. With me is our CFO, Tina Demers, and COO, James Vera. We'd just like to thank the LBA for the work that they've done. They're always collaborative. They're very helpful. And Jean and Jim and everyone that comes over does great work. I'd like to thank Tina and her team. They've done wonderful work over the years. We've certainly come a long way at the Liquor Commission, given the audits that we've had in the past, and we're very pleased with what the agency is doing. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? We're pleased that you're having a good year and managing all those stores and keeping everything moving. Any challenges ahead that you see?
Well, I think that, we had some challenges at the end of the last fiscal year. The weather wasn't great. We didn't have a great summer. We lost some of our large volume sales from across, but we're adjusting our prices. We've got some major competition in Massachusetts with Total Wine, building 8 stores there since 2016. But we are doing our best, and we're up about 13 million thus far this fiscal year. So thank
Good
you.
work.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's remarkable that the commission has done as well as it has, given the level of competition. I don't know how many of you get the Globe and listen to our public radio, where the competition is advertising against us on our own public system. That's damn difficult to deal with. And I think the commission does a terrific job in sustaining its profitability and doing the job properly. So kudos to the commission and to everyone involved. And I'm very very concerned about the future, based on the level of competition, the fact that the competitive advantages that we once held doesn't really exist anymore. It's only through the efforts of the commission that we sustain. But competition is severe at this point in time, and this local wine situation, that's a massive corporation, and as I say, they're attacking us. So kudos for the job well done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank
Further
you,
from the
Senator.
committee. Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. What's the vacancy rate in your stores?
From an employee standpoint,
Mhm.
we're actually in pretty good shape right at the moment. The vacancy rate is very low. We've basically given the 10%, and our opening salary is $15.64 now. So we've found that to be very competitive, and we've seen a lot of people come back to the part-time labor market that weren't there, as well as the incentive program, which has worked wonderfully, which is drawing some folks back to us that wouldn't get incentives in these positions, in these retail positions in other markets. So
Thank you.
thank you, Senator.
I think that's worked out well where you expanded your hours with part-time people. They were happy to get the jobs, and your customers were certainly happy to get there in late hours and on weekends. So that was a big step. Appreciated that.
Thank you very much, Representative.
Further from the
Mr.
committee.
Chairman.
Senator Herzl.
Just a comment, Hampstead would like their store back.
It's all a matter of volume.
We're hoping everybody loves the new dairy store, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the committee? Representative Leishman.
Well, hearing Senator D'Alessandro's comments, I just guess I'm looking for how we're going to deal with this declining revenue based on all the competition you're getting. Do you have a plan in place, or because obviously it's having an impact on your revenues?
Well, it hasn't necessarily had an impact in the revenues this year going forward. You were seeing it there. What we've done, what the plan is to do greater discounting. What we've seen from Total Wine is, they'll literally, on national brands, they'll work on a penny a bottle, 2 cents a bottle. They're a private label retailer, so they'll work on 50 or 60% markup on their private labels and give away the national brands. So by discounting additional discounts from 15 to 20%, which has only driven our gross profit down about 1/4% thus far, given that we started this program in July and we've run it through. We're seeing those folks come back to us and buy here. So it's costing us 1/4% to become more aggressive across the border. And, we also have to be concerned with the 3 states around us that have cannabis, because there's additional funds. There's only so much funds that people have to spend on, these types of things. And we're seeing that in the 3 states around us, they're doing just under $2.5 billion in cannabis sales. Massachusetts did $1.75 billion last year. So the type of discretionary income that normally would have been spent on alcohol is being spent on cannabis. And when you see the baby boomers moving out of the market, they're, the folks born from 46 to 64 are moving out of the alcohol market. The people moving in behind them, the generations behind them, are buying less alcohol and they're buying more cannabis. So we're seeing a split in that revenue being spent, which is affecting the alcohol business overall, worldwide and nationwide. We have a glut of wine in France that they're pouring down the drain. They're pulling up vines in Spain and in South America, and they're planting other crops because the baby boomers that drove the alcohol market for many years are now aging out, and the people behind them don't drink at the same pattern. So it's something that we realize, and it's something that we're working on aggressively.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
My pleasure.
So, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, I guess we ought to start smoking pot, even though it's illegal.
No, he obviously has some challenges. I wonder if this new business in Massachusetts can sustain the low prices they have.
Well, being a national chain, they're in 24, 25 states now. They have about 260 stores. And, they're running somewhere just under $4 billion in sales. They have 13,000 employees nationwide. So they're a big company, and a lot of the national suppliers don't necessarily like what they're doing with dropping those prices and building a knockoff brand against them, but they're such a huge brand that you cannot do business with them. So it's kind of, you're caught between a rock and a hard place if you're a national supplier. And so you have to do business with them. The sweet spot for us is knowing that they do not have the type of inventory that we have. So when we put something on sale, we have tens of thousands of cases to back that sale up. They clearly they don't have that, and they never have. So they disappoint consumer after consumer that comes to those stores looking for those products at that price. They may have 6 or 7 bottles, so at that particular price. And what we've seen in Massachusetts is they're offering those low prices, but they'll be doing it in particular stores. Sometimes they'll say only available in Natick, only available in Shrewsbury. So they're moving consumers around. They're playing a shell game with consumers, and we as a business do not do that. And I think our consumers are responding to it.
Aren't they paying a higher tax on wine in Mass?
Well, I think in general, there's no sales tax on alcohol anymore in Massachusetts. It's been dropped. It was something that they put in place and then they pulled away. But there's talk of it coming back, and praise Jesus that it does.
Knowing the history of that state as we do, I think the taxes will go back. Yeah. Representative Irf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you speak to the increase in administrative costs between 22 and 23?
Those are primarily due to salaries and benefits and our contracts and rents for our locations. So the rents have increased for the additional square footages for the new locations that we've brought on.
By 25%.
No, but then there's the salary and benefits, our increase in debt. So there's many different factors that drive those costs up.
And do you expect that to be the same going forward? The same kind of increases going forward?
Not to that same level, but we do have the increase this year for the pay raise that went into effect, the 10% pay raise.
Thank you. Anything further? Representative Leishman.
Just backing up to the last response, that national chain with the 260 some odd stores, how close are they, like in Methuen or at Kingsborough? Are they right on the border now, or?
They started out with just one store in Natick was their first store, but they have 8 stores within 30 minutes of our southern border. Their furthest store west is on the Shrewsbury Northborough line, and everything else is inside the 495 Beltway. So they've taken that Boston market from the Rhode Island border to our border, and they've kind of controlled that. And it's caused a lot of havoc in Massachusetts. A lot of people that were doing business there for many, many years have sold off their businesses and sold to other entities or, diversified. The Cappies chain, which was in Massachusetts for years, completely sold out, and they've just opened about 2 months ago their first cannabis location. The Cappies family did.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else? We appreciate this fine report. Thank you very much for adapting to all these challenges.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We're doing our best. Thank you. You can take that to the bank. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Kane, anything you want to bring before the committee? Shall we tentatively set a date for the next meeting? I think Senator Gray already has. The third Friday in February is the 16th. Anybody have any problems so far with the 16th of February for the next meeting?
No, sir.
Yeah, Friday, the 16th. You have to work? Okay. 10 o'clock, yep. Excuse me.
Not in February.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, the Baltic Sea.
Put in a bill.
Huh?
Put in a bill to get your expenses. I'll co-sponsor.
Top of the fold.
All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Third, fourth.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Kane. Thank you for all the people who came here to provide us with answers. And thank you for all the good audits. All right.